Good morning, everybody. This is Mike from the Last Corvette. Happy Thursday. Today is August 28th. We're approaching September. We're approaching Labor Day. And of course, here in the northern Michigan, boating season is starting to come to a close. But let's talk about boater safety. I think it's the most overlooked portion of being out on the water and having fun, but having fun in a safe manner. Now, I've been boating for a very long time, and trust me, seasoned boaters that are just getting into it, possibly purchasing a boat, in the fall or winter, should listen up the way they can equip their boat. And this is just like a bare minimum, right, that you need to have on any type of watercraft. And of course, there's different levels. There are jet skis, and there's small little dinghies and boats and big boats that have even more we'll say safety equipment on board. But we'll start with just a regular day boat, including my pontoon. What do I carry on board to be compliant with all of the Coast Guard regulations? And well, that's very simple. We'll start with life jackets. You gotta have life jackets for every single person or every single soul, as they say, on board that day. The best thing you can do is, number one, go off the tag on your boat, so maximum capacity. So for me, I have 12, right? It usually goes off 12 or the total weight. So at the very least, you can have enough life jackets for the day. So let's say you have 4 or 5 people, right? You got to have them. I normally carry the max, so I'll carry 12 or even 13 life jackets. Now, speaking of life jackets, you can absolutely purchase your typical, regular, Coast Guard approved orange life jackets. They slip over your neck, they strap over your chest, and yes, they will keep you afloat. They're not the best, they're not the most comfortable, but they'll do the job in case of an emergency, and you're completely in compliance when it comes to having life jackets if you have those on board. But hear me out. I've always said that the best life jacket to have is a jet ski style, vest style snap-in life jacket, right, for your entire crew. You don't have to have all of them like that, but if you have 4 or 5 or whatever the number is, I think that's good. In case of emergency, you can just basically put it on, snap it in place, and you're good to go. Now, of course, they go off size, right? So large, extra large, medium, small, whatever. And they also, you have to look the weight tag, right? So, if you're a bigger person, you definitely want to make sure that if you jump in the water, if you have to get in the water for whatever reason, it will support your weight. Now, when it comes to kids, little kids especially, they make specialty life jackets for like infants even, but just normal kids. So we'll look at, 3 years to, 14, 15 years old. Most of those life jackets will have a strap that will go in between the legs. So basically, through and back into the life jacket. And the reason behind it is if a young child jumps overboard or slips and ends up in the water, the life jacket doesn't come off, and it very well can. Specifically with smaller kids, they can slip right out of the life jackets through their arms. So that kind of keeps the whole life jacket in place, connected to the torso. Now, one other thing before we move on to the next item is you need to remember all kids are required to have life jackets on anytime they're on the boat. I believe the cutoff age is, if you have a big 16-year-old or whatever, that's okay, but 18 years old, right? You got to have a life jacket on. For adults, it's optional underway, but you still got to have them on board, but you don't have to wear them. That's just how it goes. So little kids, you got to have a life jacket on. Quick little story, about 2-3 weeks ago, I was coming back into the marina. I had actually 12 people on board, 5 or 6 kids, different ages, and a sheriff was behind me coming into the river as well. I didn't get pulled over, but they came close enough, and I had to actually kind of come in and meet them on their starboard side. They just did a quick little count, and gave every single kid a free Happy Meal or whatever cheeseburger gift card. So that was pretty awesome. So it pays off to be safe. Now, The second most overlooked, we'll say, emergency device or equipment is a working VHF radio. It can be either a fixed mount. Most of my big boats had a fixed mount. The pontoon never came with a VHF, so I bought a portable Cobra VHF radio. It's powerful. I have 3 different power levels. I can monitor 2 channels on it, so I can be on channel 16. That's your main emergency channel for Coast Guards and Sheriff. If you're in distress, that's where you go, Mayday, Mayday. Or you can also, cycle through the weather channel, which is also very important. And you can also make contact with other boaters on free open channels. So why is it important to have a VHF radio? Everyone relies on their cell phones. I bring my cell phone with me. I, can use it as a chart plotter. I can make calls, receive text messages, whatever the case is. But what if it goes in the water? What if the battery dies, right? Or what if you capsize, God forbid, or your boat starts to sink? VHF, even on big boats, I remember Old Timer always used to tell me, yes, you have a fixed mount VHF, but it's also best to have a floating portable VHF radio as well. So that's what I have on my pontoon. I keep it near me, near the helm. Every time we go out, I'll grab it with me. Now, another thing is you have to make sure that your VHF works both ways. People can hear you, and then you can receive the transmission back, and that's called a radio check. So I do a radio check, not every time I go out, but at least once a month, maybe twice a month, I'll do a radio check. I'm close enough to the water where I can actually do it from my house. I can pick up my handheld and just say radio check. Usually followed by your vessel's name, and then somebody will answer back. It's kind of I'm gonna say this. It's not very nice to do it on channel 60, even though a lot of times Coast Guards or somebody else that's on channel 16 will respond. But you can always go on channel like 70, I want to say 71 open channels, and do the same thing. And whoever's out there on the water usually will respond after 3 calls or so. So VHF. The third one would be flares. You got to have flares on your boat. They're pretty inexpensive. You can get 1 flare, you can get multiple flares, handheld flares, you can get flare guns. The kit that Walmart sells that I actually bought for my boat is a single flare. It has a floating emergency flag, basically, to identify your area. It also has a whistle. Whistle is another one. It's kind of a package deal. If you're at night and you lose all power, you can use the whistle to identify your location, or at least get people near the area where you're stranded, anchored, or taking on water. So whistle, you got to have that. A secondary device that can produce sound, right? It could be air horn, it could be a whistle, but you got to have that, believe it or not. As far as flares, you're required to have at least 1 good flare that's non-expired, and they, from the date of purchase, they usually last 3 years. And right on the flare, right on the body of the flare, you'll have a expiration date. So if you have a boat or you bought a boat, check your flares. It's super simple to make sure everything's in compliance. Another item is a medical aid kit or a medical box. Same thing, you can purchase them at Walmart. If you're near the water, you can get them online. You can purchase them at West Marine. It's a little box, has all the essentials, right, to stop the bleeding. It will have a little bit of, let's say ibuprofen, stuff like that. And that's another requirement, right? If they really start digging, they'll go through the entire process of, making sure you have everything on board. Another big one is a fire extinguisher. You got to have at least 1 fire extinguisher that's rated for a multi-element fire, so gasoline, plastic, stuff like that. I do have your typical bottle, not a small one, a medium-sized fire extinguisher hidden away in my pontoon boat. Bigger boats, that's where you got to have multiples, and then you'll have a halon system, like in the engine compartment, stuff like that. So that's kind of a little bit different, but you got to have a fire extinguisher on board. From there, so we covered the life jackets, VHF. You got to have a throwable, and what a throwable is essentially is if somebody goes overboard. Let's say an adult that doesn't need to wear a life jacket goes overboard, or somebody swimming, and let's say the weather turns up. You got to have a way to throw something out to the person, and the idea there is so they can grab it and then they can swim back to safety. But one thing I've learned, they have safety rings, right? Floating safety rings that you can throw out, and usually those have like a 20-foot, sometimes even a 30-foot rope. And I have a 20-foot piece of rope tied to my flotation device or my throwable. It's just a cushion with 2 grip handles. And the theory behind it, the reason you need a rope is if you throw it and either the current or the waves take it or the person just misses it, right? This is all happening quick. This way you can retrieve it and relaunch it. And also if the person does grab a hold of the flotation device, but they can't get back to the boat, you can, as long as they can hold on, you can drag them near your watercraft, near your swim platform or the side of the boat and pull them in. These are the most important basic safety devices you can have. And of course, when it comes to navigation, type equipment on board, you got to have working nav lights, navigation lights, I should say, right? So your red, your green, your anchor light in the back, that has to work. You got to have a working horn, or you can have a air horn if your horn doesn't work, but that's where that secondary backup plan comes in, as I told you earlier. And then from there, like all the working equipment, right? So bilge pumps, if you have them, all those things got to be checked. Now the nav lights, no one is going to check the nav lights during the day. The horn, they might do a quick check, but if you don't trust me, the only thing you can do is you can either take a boater safety class, which they'll go through in fine detail at your local Coast Guard auxiliary class, or you can Google and find yourself a Coast Guard auxiliary officer, basically, right? And what they do is they'll come out absolutely free to your marina, even sometimes to your house if it's near, and they'll do an inspection list, basically the same list I just went through today. They'll make sure that you're, all the things that I just mentioned, and then they'll also dig into further things like, do your batteries have battery lids, right? Is everything nice and tight, right? You don't have any leaks, stuff like that. It's also very, very nice to do that, because not only are you making sure that your boat is safe and you have all the right equipment, but they also give you a certificate, and they give you, on big boats, on big lakes, they'll give you a little sticker for the year that you've been inspected. Now, it doesn't mean if you're doing something foolish that Coast Guard or Sheriff is not going to pull you over. They can pull you over at any time, specifically Sheriff, if they see something off. But at least it gives you a head start. And a lot of times, big marinas will have a Coast Guard, actual Coast Guard, not auxiliaries, come out and do boat inspections for absolutely free. So that's pretty much it. Stay safe out there. I know the season is coming to an end here in Michigan. We're going to have, another walleye hit coming up here in the fall. Salmon on the west side, trout. Of course, duck hunting is coming up. So just stay safe out there. Watch this video, write it all down, check all your equipment, your flares, your medical kit, all those things expire. Make sure they're up to date, and you won't have a problem being out on the water. And of course, another thing too that sheriffs or Coast Guards that they might dig into is if you have a safety cutoff switch, right? So you have a prong style, like a jet ski style cutoff switch. Technically, it's supposed to be connected to the captain, either to the life jacket or to something. So in the case where you let's say hit a big wave and you fly off your helm seat, or you flip the boat over, or whatever the case is, shuts the engine off, because the last thing you want to do is have a prop or props spinning at high RPM while people are being ejected. That's no good. Comment below.